Hari Om. With the blessings of Param Pujya Guruji, we are about to start our understanding and study on a very beautiful and in-depth text, yet presented in a very simple manner, which is known as Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam is a very popular text by Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji, which is very popularly chanted by young and the old. The beauty of this text is that even though it has a simplicity in its presentation, the shlokas are given to us in a beautiful, simple Sanskrit language. And when we chant the shlokas of Bhaj Govindam, the chanting itself is so enchanting, so mesmerizing, so enjoyable. It's got rhythm in it. And yet, each and every verse in this lovely text is pregnant with in-depth meaning. Bhaj Govindam has another name as well, which is very popular, and it is known as Moha Mudgar. Moha Mudgar means, Moha means delusion, and Mudgar is a name which is given to sometimes Hanumanji's Gada is also known as Mudgar. And if we may have noticed even in today's times that in the kitchen we use a musal, something that's used for crushing the spices, that is also known as a Mudgal. So a Mudgar is something which is used for hammering and crushing. So Shankaracharya ji is taking up various delusions of a human mind, of a jiva, and he is as though crushing it, as though negating it from our minds. Various notions we are living with, like money is very important for us. We have a strong conviction that when we attain various things from the world outside, we will be happy and contented. When we get a lot of money, we will be happy. When we have a good family, then we will be contented. When we will be very successful, we will have a good job. When we will reach great heights of fame, all these things, all these achievements in life, we believe that they will give us the ultimate contentment and satisfaction and happiness. But is this really so? This is what is questioned, analyzed, and understood in these lovely verses of Bhaj Govindam. So there are 31 verses in this text, and we will be taking up one by one each shloka. Sri Shankaracharya ji, Adi Shankaracharya ji, who has given us this lovely text, he is the glory and vibhuti of Sanatan Dharma, who revived Sanatan Dharma when it was almost drowning in misconception and malpractices. It was Shankaracharya ji who revived the Vedic knowledge, the knowledge of Advaita, the knowledge of Vedanta. And today we all are very privileged and blessed to be studying the scriptures, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, all in a manner, in a form of a bhashya which is given to us by Shankaracharya ji, a commentary given to us by the great Acharya, so that we can study the scriptures in a more graspable manner. So here we see in this lovely text, Bhaj Govindam, it comes to us in a very interesting background. It so happened that once Shankaracharya ji, along with a few of his disciples, he was in Kashi, and one morning as he took a dip in the Gangaji and was going for darshan at the Kashi Vishwanath temple, as he was walking along the streets or the banks of the Gangaji, he heard someone trying to memorize a rule of Sanskrit grammar. So he heard someone repeatedly saying Dukrin Karne, Dukrin Karne. So he was very pleased to hear that someone was in this wee hour of the morning, someone was dedicating his time and showing his interest and dedication towards learning Sanskrit grammar. Sanskrit is a very divine language. It is a language of the Devatas, a language of the Vedas, and in India it is the mother of all our languages, all our regional languages. So indeed it is a great language which we all must take a resolve that we will learn at least the basics of Sanskrit, so that whenever we are inspired, we are inclined to walk on this path of spiritual learning, to walk on the path of devotion, to enter the portals of our scriptures, at that time this basic knowledge of Sanskrit can help us dive into the world of this beautiful knowledge which our rishis and acharyas have given to us. So indeed it is a divine language. Even the chanting of Sanskrit shlokas, it brings about such peace, integrity and focus of the mind. So here Shankaracharya ji, he listens to someone learning the Sanskrit grammar, and when he listens, Dukrin Karne, he feels very curious to see and know who is this person who is memorizing the roots of Sanskrit grammar. So as he goes closer, he comes to see that there was this old gentleman who was sitting there and repeating Dukrin Karne. It is said that he was a teacher of Sanskrit, and of course to teach various students he was also studying for himself. But when Shankaracharya ji sees him, he feels a bit disappointed, because here was a man who was at the stage of life when life would end for him at any moment. He was in the last stages of his life. He was aged, he was old, he was frail. So that was a time when we feel that any moment Yamraj ji would be taking us along with him. Any time we would have to bid goodbye to this world, our family, all our achievements, all our worldly knowledge, everything that we have seen in life. It would be a time to say goodbye. So, out of compassion, this great Acharya who had realized the truth of life, who could see what fulfills life, by keeping that in mind, he is invoked with compassion and love towards this old gentleman. And he goes on to tell him, Bhajgo. So he, out of compassion and love for this old gentleman, he goes on to tell him, O deluded one, revel your mind in the devotion of Lord. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. Let us chant this lovely verse before we dive into the meaning of it. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Moodhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karne. So Shankaracharya ji says, O deluded one, O foolish man, such a strong and harsh word to call someone, but yet out of compassion to awaken this man, to make him start thinking, he has to use such strong words. We all feel that we are very intelligent people and we have acquired various kinds of knowledge and we are very smart people. We know so many things, and in today's times, as we see, there is so much of technological advancement and we are constantly learning so many things. So often we are going on, there are Babajis who give us spiritual knowledge, and there is another Babaji who is very famous, and that is Google Baba, that is YouTube Baba. So whenever we want to learn something, when we are curious about something, then we simply go on Google and YouTube and search for whatever we want. So there is an ocean of knowledge available on the internet today. So somehow we feel that we know a lot. But do we really know a lot? We may have certain kinds of knowledge and understanding of the world outside, of various gadgets and things like that. But do we really know the reality of life, the truth of life? Do we really know that manual of the art of living, which will make our life truly joyous, stress-free and contented? We have attained so many things in life, and yet we all seem to be suffering the same kind of pandemic which is known as stress in today's times, and dissatisfaction. Even though we are constantly gaining so much, we are earning so much, yet we all seem to be stressed and discontented. What is the reason for that? Today, the world has advanced so much that everything is available to us simply at the click of a button. We can buy so much with money, everything is there in front of us. But are we really happy from within? We need to ask this question to ourselves. And we come to realize that even though we are achieving so much, we are earning so much of wealth, we are traveling so much, we are buying so much, even then, we all seem to be constantly running behind more and more. We all seem to be dissatisfied. We all seem to be stressed out. So here, all of us need to see this fact that there is some knowledge, there is some understanding which we are missing out. And that understanding is that we are not aware of the real goal of life. We are not aware of the real means, that art of living that will take us on the path of contentment. We have decided on hearsay, on seeing each other, on by practicing the sheep mentality, we have almost decided that our contentment and happiness will come to us when we attain a lot of money, when we are very successful in life, when we will travel a lot, when we will have a big house, when we will buy, a lot of fancy things. So various kinds of notions, we are nourishing them with the understanding that these things alone will bring happiness. But it is not so. And this is what our scriptures are constantly revealing to us. This is what the great acharyas are constantly reminding us, that this is not the way to attaining contentment and happiness in life. And that is why Shankaracharya ji goes on to tell this old man, "O Mudhamate, do you realize what is the true goal of your life? Do you realize what is the real means? What is the valid means of realizing and fulfilling that goal in life?" So, Mudhamate, and revealing to us the goal of life, he says, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. Devotion to the Lord, devotion to that Creator who has brought about, who has created this beautiful world. Just imagine this world which is created by God is so beautiful by itself. It is attracting us to the extent that we can't see anything else beyond it. Just imagine, if the world is so beautiful, then how beautiful will the Creator be? How beautiful will that Lord be who has presented this beautiful creation in front of us? But we ignore the Creator and as we see, we are more mesmerized by the creation. So here Shankaracharya ji says, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. Love and devotion for the Lord should be our goal. Knowledge of the Lord, knowledge of the self, reality of this world is what we should be aiming for. This is what we should look for as a goal in life, because this alone will give us real contentment and true happiness and peace within. And sometimes we also see that on one hand, if there are a group of people who don't even know what the goal of life is, there are also a number of people who have some knowledge about this goal of life, who have faith in the existence of God, who believe that realizing the truth of themselves and God alone will bring satisfaction in life, who are inclined and are doing sadhanas for invoking and enhancing their devotion for the Lord. But sometimes, even though we have an awareness, we have faith towards the existence of God, sometimes we are not clear, we are not aware, or we do not have the right understanding of the valid means to achieve that goal. Or we do not have the viveka between the sadhana and the sadhya. We have a goal, but sometimes when we have not taken the guidance of a Sadguru, when we have not got the valid knowledge, then at that times, even though we take up certain means, we do japa, we sing the glories of the Lord, we do bhajan, we do puja, we do vrata, we go for Tirth Yatra, we even go for satsang. But if we don't go for the satsang at the right place, then we are not given the right guidance regarding the valid means of knowledge and the clarity of the goal. So sometimes we are not aware of the validity of the goal, how of the means, how we should practice the means, how long we should practice the means, which is the right means, the right sadhana for me, so that I may achieve my goal. If I'm aware of the goal, then I should also have the knowledge of the right sadhana towards the goal, how I should practice the sadhana, and how long I should practice the sadhana. So here also we see that this old gentleman was learning Sanskrit, but neither was he aware of the goal of life, and nor was he clear about the means towards this goal of life. So even if we have to learn Sanskrit, then we should see the role of Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a beautiful language, but Sanskrit is a means for us to unfold the scriptures, to understand the scriptures. And at the same time, in this case, here we see that this person had very little time of his life left. So for him, what was his priority? Was his priority to practice the sadhana of learning Sanskrit grammar, or was the priority for him to do the sadhana of invoking and strengthening his love and devotion for Lord? So also if we look at our lives, when we are practicing sadhana, we are doing japa, we have to understand that every sadhana has a role to play to bring about certain attributes and certain qualities in the mind, so that that kind of a mindset will help me in my spiritual evolution. Every sadhana has a role to play for our spiritual evolution, but every sadhana must be practiced, and then we all have to move on to a more subtle practice of sadhana to move ahead in our journey. There is a very beautiful text again by the great Acharya Adi Shankaracharya ji, which is called Sadhana Panchakam. In Sadhana Panchakam, Shankaracharya ji gives us 40 steps for our spiritual evolution. Each step brings about a very nice attribute, a very nice quality of evolution in our mind. It helps us to grow from where we stand today. And then the Acharya moves on. Once we are matured enough, then just as we take the one step, we leave the second step behind and we climb up the steps. In the same manner, we practice a sadhana, we fulfill it, and then we take on the next sadhana, which will prepare us for this knowledge. So every sadhana prepares our mind, it purifies our mind, and then ultimately it opens the doors of knowledge for us. So here also we need to understand that every sadhana has a role to play. And just as we go on a Tirth Yatra, we take one means. Initially we start off by going into the car, and then we reach the railway station or we reach the airport, and then having reached the airport or the railway station, we take the train, and then as we travel in the train, we reach the destination, and then again we either take a car or a bus or we walk on foot, and in this manner we finally reach our destination, our Tirtha Sthan, and we do the darshan of God. So we see we take up various means, and as we fulfill the goal, we drop that means and then take the next one again. So also every sadhana that we practice has a role to play. And at the same time, here we also see the implication given to us over here that when the Acharya says nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karne, we can also understand that as we believe that the various means which we acquire in life, family, money, fame, house, car, phones, all these things that we attain in life, nahi nahi rakshati, ultimately all these achievements are not going to save us from the clutches of death or from the clutches of samsara, from the clutches of constant seeking. We will achieve a lot in this world and then leave this body, and then we will go on a journey onwards. Again, we will take birth somewhere, again, we will be some kind of a living being, and then again, we will take another birth. And we will not reach that destination of contentment. So, even as we traverse through various births and deaths, even then, we will not be satisfied. So, nahi nahi rakshati, this is not going to save me. This is not going to help me grow. This is not going to give me the real joy. So, we need to think about it. And what is going to save me? Bhaj Govindam, my devotion and love for Ishvara, my knowledge about this Ishvara whom I love, and ultimately realizing that Ishvara and me are not two entities, we are one. So here the Acharya says that, O Moodhamate, O fool, do not waste your time, this precious life that you have been given by God, that you have been blessed with. Do not waste this life in the achievements and the bhoga of superficial things, or by getting stuck in one sadhana. Devote your time and energy towards the love for God. And here we see Bhaja Govindam. Bhaja. Bhaja is expressing my love and devotion for the Lord, invoking that love and devotion for the Lord. Before we see how we can bring about this devotion, what is the meaning of devotion, we must also see that love basically is natural to all of us. Love is natural to human beings, love is natural to birds, love is natural to animals. So love is something which we do not have to deliberately bring about. We all know how to love without even learning it from anywhere. When we were born, when we were little children, we started playing with toys, we started becoming aware of our family and friends and various things outside into the world. Nobody taught us to love toys. Nobody taught us to love our siblings. Nobody taught us to love our parents. Nobody taught us as we grew up to love someone else. But love comes to us naturally. So love is something we don't have to learn. Just as a fragrance is to a flower, so is love to all living beings who are conscious of themselves and life. So, in the same manner, devotion for God is love for God. But there is a difference over here between what we understand of love and devotion. Devotion is love for God with reverence, with respect, by seeing the glory and knowledge of God, by seeing the beauty of God, by seeing the greatness and divinity of God. So when we are invoked with a great respect, great reverence for Ishvara, along with love, this love and reverence together is expressed as devotion. So here, Bhaja Govindam, devote your time and energy in the devotion of God. Now, when we say that we need to have devotion for the Lord because He is the reality, He is the ultimate truth, and there alone we will get our real joy and satisfaction, Then, what do we understand by bhaja and what do we understand by govindam? So, first of all, let us see what we understand by govindam. Because when we need to, or when we have love for someone, we have love for someone whom we know, whom we have some understanding about. If I don't know someone, if I don't understand someone, if I don't know what is the beauty of some person or some animal or bird or anything around us, if I don't know the beauty, if I don't know the value of it, how will I invoke love, or how will love come to me naturally for that person? So, for love to be invoked, I need to know that person. And so also over here, who is Govinda and why should I love Govinda? So Govinda or Ishvara, in a wide spectrum, in a totality, Ishvara, first if we see the word meaning of Govinda, Govinda is that popular name for Bhagwan Shri Krishna, who is the caretaker of the cows. As we see, he was also known as the Gwala. So he used to take the cows for grazing and taking them for a walk. So he was also known as a cowherd, a Gwala, and therefore he also got a name Govinda. Go means a cow, and Indra is the one who took care of them. So he is that Ishvara, an incarnation who took care of the cows, and in totality that Ishvara who takes care of the entire Prakriti, the whole nature. And Govinda also means the one who enlivens our indriyas, our faculties. Today we are able to see this beautiful world, we are able to experience this world, we are able to interact with this world. All these things are happening because we are alive. Our indriyas are able to take in this knowledge from the world outside. So the one who enlivens our faculties is Govinda. Such a beautiful name. So when we are looking at something, when we are listening to something, when we are able to get the smell of something, when we can touch something, we can indeed feel a great sense of gratitude that I am able to do so because someone is blessing me. This divine entity, divine Ishvara, is blessing my faculties so that I may experience this beautiful world. So he is Govinda. Govinda is also the one who is the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer of this world. So as we see, this world is so beautiful that we can't see anything else apart from this world. Such is the glory of this beautiful creation. Ishvara is the one who has brought about this wonderful creation. We speak of the great wonders of this world, the 7 wonders of the world which are created by man. But have we ever tried to see and recognize and feel within our hearts the umpteen number of wonders of the world which Ishvara has created? The sun, the rains, the air that we breathe, our body, our heart, our digestive system, our breathing capacity, the birds, the skies, everything that we see around. It is a beautiful cosmic wonder which Ishvara has created. So this beautiful world, he is the creator, and not only the creation is beautiful, but it is also functioning in such a wonderful manner. There is so much of harmony, there's so much perfection. There are so many things that are living. We can interact with them, we can experience all these things. So the entire world is functioning so beautifully. Everything seems to be put on such a harmonious automation mode. that we don't have to do anything. The sun rises on perfect time, the sun sets, we have the rains, the air that we are breathing is available to us. Everything is functioning in perfect order. So the sustenance of this world, indeed, he is the cosmic Prime Minister. And then we see the destruction of the world. The destruction is also an equally important and significant aspect of life. If there is death, then alone there is value for life. Then alone we have a new chapter of life which opens for us. So as we see here also, this old gentleman, he's aging, and any time he will give up his life, and then God will present to him a new dress, a new wardrobe for his journey onwards. So as death comes to us, it brings to us the message of a new life. And so also when we have life in front of us, it also quietly comes and whispers into our ears that, my dear friend, this time will also pass away. So let's make the best use of it. So here, not only do we make the best of whatever is available to us in this world for experience, but in and through these experiences, we also realize the real goal of life. So here, Govinda is that Ishvara who has created this world, he's sustaining it, and he also embraces it unto himself. So Bhaja Govindam, such a beautiful Ishvara, such a divine Ishvara who is so compassionate, who is all knowledgeable, who is pervading in and through everything that he has created, and who is continuously blessing us with so many things in life. Such Ishvara is indeed worth loving. Everything that we love in life is beautiful, but everything comes and goes. Everything is worth loving because we give importance to it. But Ishvara deserves to be loved because he himself is an embodiment of love. He simply deserves to be loved because he is the creator and he is the loving and all compassionate one. He is within me. He is not separate from me. So, Bhaj Govindam, love this Ishvara. Love such an Ishvara who is so compassionate. So, Bhaja, when we feel this devotion and love for God, how do I express this devotion? How do I invoke and enhance this devotion? That is what is understood in the word Bhaja. Now, Bhaja in our scriptures is also explained as Bhaja Sevayam. Through the service of Lord, we express our devotion. But Bhaja is not just serving. We can look at it from a very wide spectrum, a wide point of view. Everything that we do, we sing the kirtan of the Lord, we worship the Lord, we do puja, we go for tirtha yatra, we do tapasya, we do dana. All these various sadhanas that have been given to us in the scriptures, in the Bhagavad Gita, all these sadhanas, all are an expression of our devotion toward the Lord. When I do japa, it's expressing my love for the Lord. When I'm going for tirtha yatra, it is an expression and a means of strengthening my devotion for the Lord, strengthening my faith towards the Lord. And at the same time, the Acharya says, Ishvara says, all our scriptures are thundering that when we see that the practice of various sadhanas are a means of doing bhajan, then it need not always be constrained to the level that if I do puja, then alone I am doing bhajan. If I do japa, then alone I am doing bhajan. If I am going for tirtha yatra, then alone I am worshipping God. So worshipping God is not just limited to तीर्थ यात्रा or japa or puja or vrata, but bhaja sevayam. Everything that we do, everything that I perform as an action, whether I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm serving my family, I'm looking after the elders, I'm serving the society, I'm taking care of myself, I'm looking after this body, I'm looking after the birds, the nature around me, the trees, everything. Whatever actions I perform, that action which I perform may become my puja towards the Lord, may become my worship towards the Lord. So, yat karomi tat tad akhilam shambho tavaradhanam. Whatever I do, may that become my worship at the feet of the Lord. So, this is the best way of doing bhajan of Ishwara. There can be no better way of remembering the Lord than serving the Lord. Become a Ramaduta. Perform every action as a service, as a worship, as a puja at the divine feet of the Lord. See everyone in this world as an ansha, as a part of Ishwara, and serve everyone wholeheartedly, with happiness, selflessly. And that will be the true bhajan. And that alone will evolve us spiritually. That alone will take us on a very beautiful journey ahead. And this alone will save us at the time of death. As we practice this bhajan, as we bring about and retain this awareness of God in our hearts, this will become natural to me. And at the last moment of my life, when it will be time to bid goodbye to this world, remembrance of the Lord, singing the glory of the Lord, and the awareness of the Lord will be very natural to me, because this is what I have been living all my life. And thus the Acharya says, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam bhaja mudhamate, samprapte sannihite kale, nahi rakshati dukrin karne. Nothing else in the world outside is going to save me except my love and devotion, and then knowledge for Ishwara. Hari Om. That's it.